Did you hear what happened to Sarah?
The joke landed like a poison-tipped dart, delivered with a laugh that was meant to be light and playful, but carried the weight of 1,000 betrayals. We were at a dinner party, surrounded by the low hum of polite conversation and the clinking of wine glasses. Sarah, my wife of 7 years, was holding court, her face flushed with Chardonnay and the adoration of our friends. I watched her, my heart swelling with a familiar pride, until she decided to use me as her punchline. "Oh, come on, Mark is the best," she slurred slightly, waving her glass in my direction. "He's stable, he's reliable, a real rock." She leaned forward, her eyes glittering with a cruel mischief I didn't recognize. But let's be honest, she whispered to the woman next to her, a whisper everyone at the table could hear. "At least my ex had a bigger bank account." The table froze. A few nervous titters were quickly suffocated by the overwhelming, deafening silence. All eyes flicked to me. I felt the heat of a dozen embarrassed stares sear into my skin. In that moment, I wasn't a man. I was a prop in Sarah's comedy routine, the dependable, emasculated husband whose greatest virtue was his predictability. Her smile was wide, expecting me to play along, to be the good sport I'd always been, but the look in her eyes wasn't playful. It was contempt, thinly veiled by alcohol. I said nothing. I just looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her clearly. I saw the woman who had slowly, over years, come to view my love as a given, my devotion as a weakness. The car ride home was a silent tomb. She fell asleep against the passenger window, a slight smile on her lips, completely oblivious to the nuclear winter she had just unleashed in my soul. That night, as she snored softly beside me, I did something I'd never done before. A cold, clinical fury had replaced the hot humiliation. I picked up her phone, my fingers steady despite the tremor in my heart. Her password was our anniversary, a final bitter joke. It didn't take long to find them, the messages, the photos, not with an X, with my business partner Jason. The evidence was a meticulous, graphic chronicle of a 6-month affair. There were jokes about my naivety, comparisons that made her dinner party jab seem like a compliment, and plans for a future that very explicitly did not include boring, predictable Mark. The world didn't shatter, it crystallized into a single, sharp, undeniable point. Revenge. This wasn't a wound to be wept over. It was a war to be won. The man who woke up the next morning was not the man Sarah had humiliated. He was a shell, an automaton programmed for a single purpose. I made her coffee. I kissed her cheek. I told her the dinner party was fun. I watched the relief flood her features. She'd gotten away with it. Her belief in my docile ignorance was the foundation upon which I would build her destruction. Revenge is not a fire, it's a frost. It doesn't burn, it freezes. It froze the grief, the love, the humanity inside me, leaving only a calculating clarity. I hired a discreet and ruthlessly efficient private investigator. Within weeks, I had a dossier on Jason that would make a crime lord blush. Embezzlement from our company, a secret second family in another state, debts to people who did not appreciate late payments. I began my own financial preparations, silently, methodically draining our joint accounts, siphoning funds into offshore holdings, restructuring our assets. Every lie I told her, every fake business trip I used to meet with my lawyer, every smile I forced felt like another layer of ice forming over my soul. I was becoming a monster to destroy the monsters in my life. And the most terrifying part was how easily I wore the mask. The plan was simple, total annihilation. I would wait for the perfect moment, then simultaneously expose Sarah's affair to everyone we knew and eviscerate Jason financially and professionally, leaving them with nothing but each other and the ashes of the lives they'd burned down. The only time I almost broke was on our daughter's 7th birthday. Lily, with her wide, innocent eyes that were a mirror of my own, sat on my lap as Sarah fussed over the party decorations. "Daddy, are you and Mommy happy?" she asked, her small voice full of a child's simple need for security. The ice in my heart cracked. For a moment, the weight of what I was doing, the collateral damage, the world of pain I was about to unleash on my own child, threatened to drown me. This wasn't just about Sarah and Jason anymore. I was about to detonate a bomb at the center of my daughter's universe. I held her tight, my throat constricted. "We love you very much, sweetheart," I whispered, the truest and most hollow thing I'd said in months. That night I almost called my lawyer to stop it all, but then I saw Sarah on her phone, smiling at a message, and the frost returned, harder and colder than before. The moment arrived. I called a mandatory partner meeting at our lakeside house, a place we had once called our sanctuary. I arrived first. When Sarah and Jason walked in together, their hands briefly touching, they were laughing. They stopped when they saw my face. The dossier was on the table. "What's this?" Jason asked, his voice a mix of arrogance and confusion. "Your resignation," I said, my voice flat, "and your bankruptcy filing. And if the gentleman I've informed about your outstanding debts don't kill you, your divorce papers from your wife in Ohio." His face went from tan to sheet white in seconds. I turned to Sarah. "And for you, evidence of your adultery, which will ensure you get nothing in our divorce. I've already frozen every account. The house is in my name. Your car is leased to the company, which I now own solely. You have nothing." The color drained from her face. "Mark, please, it was a mistake, the only mistake," I said, the ice in my voice finally cracking to reveal the white, hot rage beneath. "Was you joking about your ex's bank account at that dinner party? If you just kept your mouth shut, I might never have looked. You literally couldn't help yourself, could you? You had to rub my nose in it." Her eyes widened as the connection was made. The throwaway joke, the moment of casual cruelty she'd already forgotten, was the thread she had pulled to unravel her entire world. She started to cry, deep, heaving sobs of genuine terror. Jason was already on the phone, yelling, his voice cracking with panic. I watched them. I watched the two people who had caused me unimaginable pain now crumble into chaos and despair. I had done it. I had executed my perfect revenge. I had won, and I felt nothing. There was no surge of triumph, no catharsis, no peace. There was only a vast, echoing emptiness. The frost that had sustained me had melted, and there was nothing left underneath but a scorched field. I looked at Sarah, truly broken and weeping on the floor, and I didn't see the villainess of my story anymore. I saw a flawed, foolish woman who had thrown everything away for nothing, and whom I had just systematically destroyed. I had become the source of a pain so profound I knew it would ripple through Lily's life forever. My revenge hadn't healed me. It had amputated a part of me. The cost of my victory was my own humanity. I walked out of the house I had once loved, leaving the ruins of their lives behind me. I got in my car and drove, with no destination in mind. The need for revenge had been the engine of my existence for months, and now it was gone. I was empty. Weeks later, the divorce proceedings were underway, cold and brutal. I saw Sarah once across the courtroom. The light in her eyes was gone. She was a ghost. I had done that. I had set out to hurt her as she had hurt me, and I had succeeded 1,000 times over. But staring at the hollow, doubt woman she had become, I understood the final, devastating truth. Holding on to anger and revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I had consumed the poison willingly, and while she was wounded, I was the one who was truly dead inside. My revenge was complete, and it was the greatest failure of my life. Moral of the story: revenge is a fire that consumes the kindling of your own soul long before it burns the house of your enemy.